And we are back. I would say bright and early, but it's not bright, and it's not all that early. But, hello my preciouses, my pretties. You are the bane so far. Okay, so on this, the Petty Chevy, where we left off last time was having some of the basic stuff installed. I thought about it when I left, and I made a big whoopsie. Or it could be a big whoopsie. I'm gonna try and show you guys real quick what that big whoopsie would have been. So, the big whoopsie. Damn it, if I had a light that worked. 1 second, guys. There we go. The big whoopsie. The way this whole circuit panel works, power comes in from the circuit breaker, which is fed power directly from my fuse block, which is fed power directly from my main wire. What I did was I installed power wires from my fuse block here back to the circuit after it already had power in it. That's no bueno, and I'll tell you why. Essentially what would happen is when I go to power that up, it's just going to have power coming from one side and power coming from the other side, and it is going to cause a fire. It is going to shock out. So that is the very first thing that I need to do, is take those power wires out, because I was over and under thinking things both at the same time. I need to make sure that I correct that first before I go any further, so I know that I'm not going to have a major whoopsie there. I'm going to do that now. Okay, now I'm pretty sure that I fixed my possible big whoopsie. Here's what I had to do. Those wires that I had made to feed back to the positive, took those out, set them to the side, left them open for now. There's nothing back in there. And I have my fuel pump feed here on the black wire. Barely see it. Black wire is fed into the positive because this should have battery power coming in, and then this wire going out to the fuel pump on the positive, and that is grounded on the chassis, so there should be no need to come back to the block here to return power. Then I have my fans on the next pole. Those also ground out to the chassis. That wire comes up in here for now and goes back out as a yellow wire out to the fans and then grounded on the chassis. I've got a couple of other things to think about now. Specifically, the way the instructions state is that these poles, as they go down, correspond to certain blocks on the control panel. And the way it's worded is mostly that this is set up for 30 amps, these two, then 20 amps, and then 10 amps, and then 5 amps. I thought I may be able to change that just by changing the fuses. However, the way everything is worded, I'm worried that the circuit itself inside between these fuses is specifically built for those. So I don't think this 5 amp fuse is necessarily built to handle more than 5 amps, not just based on the fuse itself, based on the circuitry. So that's okay. I just have to start thinking about what I'm going to place next. I placed my highest amperage items here first, fuel pump and then fans. And then as far as I had everything set up, that second pole on the fuse block was for the fuel pump or for the fans. I can't remember, honestly. Either one of those was either the fuel pump or the fans, and they are some of my highest ramped fuses. What kept happening is I had them wired up and they would blow fuses, and I'd just go up another step. I'm sure that there is, and I know that there is, a more appropriate way to figure that out. I was never super great at electrical theory. Voltage drops and proving electrical issues was always not my strong suit. I could almost always tell you what was wrong with it based on the theory alone, but the actual proving of it, you know, doing the voltage drops, ohms tests, all that, I was never very, very good at. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So that's how I did it. That's, you know, what I've got right now. I blew some fuses until they stopped blowing fuses. And then I knew I had the right size fuse, or at least one step above what I needed. So hopefully that also means that if it comes to an amperage draw situation and it's going to blow before it gets too much of a big deal. I'd rather have just like the next step up fuse that doesn't blow while it's working and it blow sooner when it has an issue rather than it keep going, and then just poof afterwards and possibly damage some stuff. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to think about how my wiring needs to be set up now. There's going to be a lot of me moving my wires around, making them look nicer later or in between. That's one of the things that I get kind of caught up on, is how it sits in there. I don't want it to just look like a rat's mess, even though it's always going to be a rat's mess. There's always going to be something. I'm not, I'm not a factory. I'm not R&Ding all this. I'm just kind of putting it in and going, that looks good. I don't like that. I like that. That could be better. So I'm going to take a couple minutes here to think about what I'm doing and then jump back into something when I know what I'm going to do. The next thing that I think I'm going to think about is my brake lights and headlights. I have my brake and headlight harness running from the car in the back right now. I'm going to have to pull that out, but I just want to focus on this part of the harness right now, so I mostly understand how I set this up. What I've got going on is, this is off of my brake light switch as it is right now. The yellow wire was what was powering everything. Sorry. This is what was supplying the power through everything. The yellow wire comes through and feeds to the brake light switch itself, and then this was the power wire that led to the back of the brake lights. The rest of everything, this was the parking light or running light situation of that setup. So these are also going to have to get set up into the control panel, and then one is going to have to get hooked up to power, and then one of them is going to have to get hooked up to the switch side. So I'm going to have to make sure I have one of those, probably the yellow wire, come off of the power, so that anytime I hit the brakes, the brake lights should come on and be supplied on ground. Okay, here is the situation after breaking down the wiring harness. This bit goes back to the taillights. I'm going to leave that on the car just so I know where it goes, what it does. And then I've got 3 different wires that run from that part of the harness up to the front. One of these red wires, I am almost guaranteed, is the one that I put in, which would probably be this one here that has red and yellow, that then goes off to the circuits that I have. So this is going to be my hot wire intercept for power towards the brake light for all times, and then that is going to go up to the brake switch, and then this is the one that comes on the other side of the brake switch that comes down and feeds to the rest of the back part of the harness. So I'm going to have this part of the wiring separated. That way I know this group is for my brake light functionality, and that is something I need to hotwire to power all the time and have set up as power all the time. So that's that circuit. This is the actual power supply circuit, which looks like it's got its fuse and its lead connectors here, and then it's just tapped into this ground wire, which I believe that ground wire serves for everything on the parking light circuit. So I've got my power and grounds, I've got my main power for the harness that goes up to everything in these connections. And then separately, looks like in the harness they made just a ganged junction there for each headlight, and they tied the main ground wire back into everything. So that's what I'm going to have to figure out, how to set everything up, where to make my disconnections. The ground wire, the main ground wire feed connection, that's fine. I can just disconnect that here and then make sure that this is covered well. See if maybe I can't put some heat shrink in there, but I probably wouldn't be able to without depenning or doing something else. I might just have to wrap it back with electrical tape or solder it if I can. So that's fine, but the power, I've got to figure out how to get that disconnected. It looks like it probably just runs to one of these, so I might be able to disconnect the power, set everything up to the control panel, and then go from there. Yay! Okay, so here's where I'm at right now. I've got my headlights hooked up, my brake lights hooked up, the controller hooked up. I put the battery power back on, hit the disconnect, and nothing worked. I think I know why. For the whole control panel, anything that comes off of it, it does have that ground. So I don't have a chassis ground yet. I have the ground from the module box to my junction block, but I still have to make one from the junction block to the chassis ground. I also did have to weld on a nut that I could utilize as a chassis ground. I picked the best place that I thought would work, which is on one of the lollipop gussets. It's the shortest run, it's the cleanest run. I don't have to go in and drill something out, worry about where it's at, getting knocked into on the car. It should be covered, it should be good. So what I need to do now is I've measured out the ground cable that I need. I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and then I'm going to make one of the lugs, run that through, install it, and see how much length I have, and as long as that's good, I'll take that back out and make the other lug, install it, and test. And fingers crossed, things will start working. Let's hope, right? Okay, so here we are, about 3 hours this morning, probably about 6, 7 hours the other day. I think I've got everything figured out. What I've got now, I've got my controller hooked up, I've got my emergency kill switch, I'm going to be on the ready with this. My headlights are hooked up in there, I've got all of my other wiring-ish sorted. I've got my brake lights just on a temporary hookup back here. I've got my ground cable installed. Got the ground cable installed, the power wire installed, the main power from the circuit breaker, the main power to the circuit breaker, yada, 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 yada. I know, what you want to see is, does it blow up? I don't know. Let's find out. So, this is where I ran the ground cable to the rest of the chassis. It's as short as it can be. It's probably 2 feet. Junction block's probably somewhere around this area. as far as it just runs down between the body and the frame there, and then comes out and is attached to my welded on nut. Not the greatest welds, but again, don't care. So, I have got, let's see, do I have power hooked up? Yes, I've got the power cable hooked up. I've got my brake lights in. All right, let's just see. Let's find out. Got my controller here plugged in. Should be good to go. Fire in the hole? No, not fire in the hole. Let's try. Kill switch. Hear anything? Which I guess is good. See smoke, which is good. Gonna hit the brake lights, see if I can't get them to show up in the back there. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, alright. Control panel. It's the headlights, fan, fuel pump, but fuel pump's not finalized, hooked up, because I think I shorted out my other one. It's just not hooked up. Power. Blue lights. No, I think the controller was saying that these are for the 30 amps, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's try that. Fuel pump would be 1, fans would be 2. Okay, I got a red light, but nothing happening. Let's try this one. See what happens. Okay. Got fans. That's cool. That's really exciting. And headlights. Yeah! Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh, I know it's so silly to be so excited, but I was really worried. Really worried that this was gonna just end up in a ball of flame. Alright. I'm really happy about that. I'm gonna have a lot more to plug in here, but this definitely tells me that my understanding of the wiring circuit and the way it's all supposed to work is good. So I'm gonna have a lot of stuff that I can control from this control panel. 2 different sets of lights. I might even put in like a navigation unit. I was thinking about buying like a Garmin or a TomTom to hook into this thing, and as long as I have the right amperage circuits left, I think I can do it. I think I can also make it so that you might be able to charge your phone or something like that. So that's really good. It's really exciting progress. So I'm going to end it here. I'm going to keep working, but the episode's over. Don't forget to like and subscribe to New Yankee Auto Systems so that you can stay caught up with the progress of the Petty Chevy build. I do promise that there will be more content on the Volunteer, but in the meantime, while I have a chance to work over the winter, I'm going to be working on Petty Chevy. I might even have to borrow some parts from Volunteer to make sure that Petty Chevy can be fixed the right way. So we're just going to go ahead and keep trudging on and hope to see you guys later. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/New Yankee Auto. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Yeah!